The massive Imperium command ship glided silently through the darkness of space, its crystalline spires catching the distant light of stars. Inside the Grand Council chamber, 5 senior commanders gathered around a holographic display showing a small blue planet. High Commander Daehyun adjusted his ceremonial uniform as he studied the rotating image. His weathered face showed no emotion, but his eyes betrayed his contempt. "Earth," he said simply, touching the hologram with one finger. The image expanded, showing continents, oceans, and small orbital satellites. A primitive world. No interstellar capabilities. Limited space presence. Admiral Jiwoo, standing tall in her battle-scarred armor, raised an eyebrow. "Why do we concern ourselves with such an insignificant world?" The Emperor's chief strategist, Taiho, stepped forward. "Its position is valuable. The system sits at the crossroads of 3 major trade routes. With proper development, it could become a significant forward base." "What about the natives?" asked Jiwoo. Daehyun waved his hand dismissively. "Humans. They've only recently discovered basic space travel. Their technology is at least 3 centuries behind ours. No energy shields, no faster than light capabilities. Their weapons are chemical projectiles and crude nuclear devices." The room filled with polite laughter. "They still fight among themselves," added Taiho, bringing up images of Earth's conflicts. "Divided into nearly 200 political units. No unified planetary government." Emperor Sunwoo entered the chamber, and all present bowed deeply. He wore simple robes that belied his absolute power over 10,000 worlds. The Emperor moved to the display and studied Earth quietly. "You recommend annexation?" he asked. "Yes, Your Radiance," Daehyun replied. "A standard operation. We show our power, demand submission, and they yield. If they resist, we demonstrate our superiority by disabling their primitive defenses." The Emperor nodded slowly. "Resource reports?" "Abundant water, diverse biology, significant mineral deposits," said Taiho. "And the humans themselves could provide useful labor for our mining operations in nearby systems." Admiral Jiwoo stepped forward. "I request the honor of leading this operation, Your Radiance. My 3rd Fleet is prepared for immediate deployment." The Emperor regarded her thoughtfully. "You commanded the Centauri campaign, did you not?" "Yes, Your Radiance. We subdued 7 worlds in 17 days with minimal losses." "Very well," the Emperor said. "You will lead the annexation of Earth. How many ships do you require?" Jiwoo considered. "These humans have never encountered superior forces. Their psychological shock will be our greatest weapon. I suggest 300 warships, an overwhelming display to ensure immediate surrender." "Excessive," commented Daehyun with a smile, "but impressive. I approve." The Emperor raised his hand. "It is decided. Admiral Jiwoo will lead the 3rd Fleet to Earth. You depart in 3 days. I expect news of their surrender within 1 lunar cycle." "It shall be done, Your Radiance." Jiwoo bowed deeply. Later, in her private quarters, Admiral Jiwoo reviewed the detailed reports on Earth. She had conquered dozens of worlds in her long career, and this one seemed no different. The typical pre-FTL civilization, still burning fossil fuels and fighting over resources. Her second-in-command, Captain Minho, entered after a polite knock. "The fleet is being prepared, Admiral. All ships report ready status." "Excellent," said Jiwoo, closing the Earth report. "This will be a simple operation. A show of force, then acceptance of their surrender." "And if they resist?" asked Minho. Jiwoo smiled coldly. "Then we follow standard protocol. Disable their major defense installations and government centers. They will understand quickly enough." "The report suggests they are particularly stubborn creatures," Minho noted. "All species value survival," replied Jiwoo. "When faced with superior technology and overwhelming force, they will make the logical choice." Little did she know that across the vast emptiness of space, on that small blue planet, humans were preparing a response that would shatter the Imperium's understanding of the galaxy forever. Deep beneath the frozen glaciers of Greenland, a massive, underground facility hummed with activity. The Prometheus complex, hidden from the world for 20 years, was Earth's best-kept secret. Here, 500 scientists and engineers worked tirelessly on technology that officially didn't exist. Doctor. Suman Park stood at the main observation window, watching technicians make final adjustments to the quantum disruptor array. Her breath fogged slightly in the cold air as she checked the readings on her tablet. Final calibration complete, reported her assistant, Dr. Jinho Kim. The satellite network is functioning at optimal capacity. Suman nodded. And the stealth systems? Perfect. We've tested against every detection method we've been able to reverse engineer from the crash site. To any observer, they simply don't exist. 23 years ago, an alien scout ship had crashed in the Pacific Ocean. World leaders had kept it secret from the public, bringing together the brightest minds to study the advanced technology. What they discovered changed everything. Earth wasn't alone, and worse, it was being observed by a vast interstellar empire that considered humans primitive and ripe for conquest. In the command center, Defense Director Jinwoo Lee studied the long-range detection screens. The alien fleet had entered the outer solar system exactly as predicted. He picked up a secure phone. Madam President, they're here. 300 ships, just as our intelligence suggested. Across the planet, appearing to go about their normal lives, humans remained unaware of the approaching threat. Television shows continued broadcasting. Sports events proceeded as scheduled. Internet traffic flowed normally, all carefully orchestrated to maintain the illusion of an oblivious civilization. In reality, humanity had been preparing for this moment for decades. The crashed scout ship had contained detailed records of the Imperium's standard conquest protocols. Earth knew exactly what was coming and had planned accordingly. Status of the defensive grid? Asked Jinwoo. 5,000 satellites in position, replied the operations officer, all equipped with quantum disruptors and perfectly cloaked. These satellites, launched under the guise of commercial communications equipment, formed a web around Earth that could neutralize any approaching threat. Their technology, derived from the crashed alien ship but significantly improved by human innovation, was unlike anything the Imperium had encountered before. At the United Nations Special Security Council, representatives from 12 nations gathered in an underground bunker. They watched silently as the alien fleet approached Mars. "They're broadcasting," announced the communications officer. The room's speakers crackled to life. "People of Earth," came a commanding voice, translated through the alien language matrix they had extracted from the crash data. "This is Admiral Jiwoo of the Stellar Imperium. Your planet has been selected for annexation into our glorious empire. Surrender now and accept our authority. Resistance will result in the destruction of your military capabilities and governing structures." The president of the Global Defense Initiative looked around the room. "Send the prepared response." A carefully crafted message was transmitted, one designed to reinforce the image of a frightened, primitive species. Confused pleas for mercy, panicked questions, and frightened denials. Earth was playing its part perfectly. Back in the Prometheus, Complex Suman checked the final safeguards on the planetary defense system. "The fleet is accelerating," reported Jinho. "They'll cross the Mars threshold in 67 minutes. And our satellites? All in optimal position. The moment they enter the deployment zone, we can activate the grid." Suman allowed herself a small smile. 20 years of work for this moment. On screens throughout the facility, they watched as the magnificent Imperium warships approached, their hulls gleaming with alien metals, their engines blazing with energy unknown to primitive humans. Or so the Imperium believed. "They've taken the bait," said Jinwoo as he entered the room. "Their formation indicates a standard subjugation approach, no defensive posture." "Of course not," replied Suman. "Why would they fear monkeys who can barely reach their own moon?" Throughout the complex, scientists and soldiers shared knowing glances. Humanity had learned the most important lesson of all. Sometimes appearing weak was the greatest strength. The trap was set. The Imperium fleet advanced completely unaware they were flying toward their own defeat. The massive Imperial warships emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, their sleek, black hulls absorbing the faint light from the distant sun, 300 vessels arranged in perfect formation, a sight that had brought terror to countless worlds across the galaxy. On the bridge of the flagship Eternal Dominion, Admiral Jiwoo stood with her hands clasped behind her back, studying the holographic display of the solar system. "Full scan of the target system," she ordered. Navigator Hyunwoo moved his hands across the control panel. "Scanning complete, Admiral. 9 planets, numerous smaller bodies. The 3rd planet is our target. Earth. Show me their defensive capabilities." The display zoomed in on Earth, highlighting the planet's orbital infrastructure. A small space station, several hundred primitive satellites, and a handful of rudimentary spacecraft. "Pitiful," remarked Captain Do-hyun, Jiwoo's second-in-command. "Their most advanced weapons couldn't even scratch our hull plating." Admiral Jiwoo nodded. "As expected. Any signs they've detected our arrival?" "None, Admiral," reported the communications officer. "Their transmissions continue normally. Entertainment broadcasts, weather reports, and military communications that show no awareness of our presence." "Excellent. Maintain stealth protocols until we reach optimal broadcast range." The Imperial fleet began its measured approach toward Earth, passing the icy outer planets without slowing. Aboard the ships, crews prepared for another routine conquest. Many had participated in dozens of such operations. Approach, demonstrate power, accept surrender, establish control. The pattern rarely varied. "Admiral," called Navigator Hyunwoo, "we're detecting something unusual about their moon." Jiwoo approached his station. "Explain." "There appears to be significant mining activity on the far side, beyond what their public records indicate, and several structures that don't match any of their known lunar bases." The Admiral considered this information. "Interesting but irrelevant. Even if they have secret lunar operations, their technology level remains centuries behind ours." She turned to the weapons officer. "Prepare a demonstration strike. When we reach broadcast range, we'll disable one of their larger military installations, somewhere remote enough to minimize casualties but significant enough to make our point." "Yes, Admiral." As the fleet passed Jupiter's orbit, they captured clearer images of Earth. Cities sprawled across continents, oceans dotted with ships, the night side of the planet glittering with lights. "Their civilization is quite widespread," observed Captain Toyun. "Impressive for their technological level." "Many pre-FTL species reach this point," replied Jiwoo dismissively. "They stagnate here, fighting amongst themselves for resources rather than reaching for the stars. The Imperium will bring them order." The fleet continued its steady approach, now passing Mars. From Earth, it would still be impossible to detect them with human technology. The Imperium ship's stealth systems rendered them invisible to primitive sensors. "We are now within optimal broadcast range," announced the communications officer. Admiral Jiwoo straightened her uniform. "Send the standard annexation message on all their communication frequencies." The message was transmitted in all Earth languages. The Imperium had arrived. Earth was selected for annexation. Resistance would be futile and counterproductive. On their monitoring screens, the Imperial crew observed the expected response. Sudden spikes in military communications, news broadcasts interrupted, social media exploding with panic and confusion. "Their response is typical," noted the behavioral analyst. "Fear, denial, anger. Their military forces are going to high alert, but they have no way to detect us yet." Admiral Jiwoo smiled slightly. "Then, let us make ourselves known. Target their largest military base in the unpopulated region identified as Nevada. Disable only, no destruction. Targeting complete. Fire." A single Imperial destroyer broke formation, its weapon systems powering up. But before it could, fire, something unexpected happened. "Admiral," called the sensor operator, his voice rising with alarm. "I'm detecting energy signatures surrounding Earth. Thousands of them, just activated." Jiwoo frowned. "Impossible. Recheck your readings." "Confirmed, Admiral." Something was hidden there. Something our sensors couldn't detect until now. For the first time in her long career, Admiral Jiwoo felt a flicker of uncertainty. The humans weren't behaving according to the expected pattern of a pre-FTL species, discovering they weren't alone. They were behaving like someone who had been expecting visitors. In the command center beneath Greenland's ice, Dr. Suman watched the main display with intense focus. The Imperial fleet had just crossed the orbital line of Mars, exactly where Earth's defense plan predicted they would reveal themselves. "They're slowing," reported Jinho, monitoring the sensor array. "Their weapon systems are powering up. Looks like they're preparing for a demonstration strike." General Minseo nodded grimly. Just as expected, they always follow the same protocol: show their power, then demand surrender. He turned to Suman. "Are we ready?" "The Prometheus network is fully charged," she confirmed. 5,000 satellites. In position, all systems green. On the wall-sized screen, they watched as one of the Imperial destroyers broke formation, its energy signature changing as weapon systems came online. The target was clear: a remote military installation in Nevada, desert deliberately built as a decoy for this very moment. "Activation sequence authorized," said General Minseo, pressing his palm against the biometric scanner. "Dr. Park, you may proceed." Suman took a deep breath. 20 years of her life had led to this moment. She entered the final command code and spoke clearly. "Execute Phoenix response." Around Earth, 5,000 satellites simultaneously dropped their stealth fields. For a brief moment, they became visible to the Imperial sensors. A global web of advanced technology that no pre-FTL civilization should possess. Before the Imperial ships could react, the satellites emitted a precisely calibrated quantum pulse. The technology, reverse-engineered from the crashed scout ship but dramatically improved by human innovation, was designed to target the specific energy signatures of Imperium technology. Aboard the flagship Eternal Dominion, chaos erupted. "Admiral," shouted Navigator Hyunwoo, his voice tense with panic. "Energy surge detected around the planet." Admiral Jiwoo rushed to the main console just as the first wave hit them. The bridge lights flickered, then dimmed. Warning alarms blared throughout the ship. "What's happening?" she demanded. "Unknown energy field," reported the science officer, frantically working controls that were becoming less responsive by the second. "It's interfering with our power systems." The main display went dark. Emergency lighting activated. Bathing the bridge in an eerie red glow. "Weapons offline," called the tactical officer. "Engines failing," added another voice. "Communications down." Admiral Jiwoo gripped the edge of her command chair as the realization dawned. Somehow, this primitive species had developed technology capable of neutralizing their most advanced systems. "Switch to auxiliary power," she ordered. "Raise shields to maximum." "Shields not responding, Admiral." Throughout the vast armada, the scene repeated on every ship. Systems failed, engines died, communications ceased. The mighty Imperial fleet, 300 of the most advanced warships in the galaxy, now drifted, helplessly in space. In the Prometheus command center, the mood shifted from tense anticipation to cautious celebration as the data confirmed their success. "All Imperial vessels neutralized," announced Jinho, his voice steady despite the enormity of what they'd accomplished. "Power systems disabled, weapons offline, they're dead in space." General Minseo allowed himself a small smile. "And our casualties?" "None, sir," replied the operations officer. "The quantum disruptors worked exactly as designed. They targeted only Imperium technology." Suman studied the readings on her tablet. "The disruptors didn't damage their life support systems. They're alive but powerless." "Open a channel," ordered General Minseo. "Let's introduce ourselves properly." On the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, a single communication screen flickered to life. Admiral Jiwoo stared in disbelief as the face of a human appeared, a woman with calm eyes and the confident bearing of a leader. "Imperial vessels, this is General Minseo of the United Earth Defense Council. Your ships have been neutralized by our defensive systems. Your conquest ends here." Jiwoo found her voice. How is this possible? Your species is pre-FTL. You shouldn't have this technology." The human smiled. "You should have studied us more carefully." Humans don't like being underestimated. The powerless Imperial fleet hung suspended in Earth's orbit. 300 vessels transformed from mighty warships to helpless metal shells in a matter of minutes. Inside the Eternal Dominion, emergency lighting cast red shadows across Admiral Jiwoo's stunned face as she stared at the communication screen. "We've been monitoring your empire for decades," explained General Minseo calmly. "When your scout ship crashed in our ocean 23 years ago, we learned everything about your conquest protocols. We've been preparing ever since." Admiral Jiwoo struggled to comprehend this reversal. Throughout her long career, she had conquered dozens of worlds, all following the same predictable pattern of shock, resistance, and eventual submission. Nothing had prepared her for this. "You can't possibly have developed this technology yourselves," she insisted. "No pre-FTL civilization." "That was your first mistake," interrupted Dr. Suman, stepping into view beside the general. "You classified us based on what we showed the galaxy. We detected your observation probes long ago and gave you exactly what you expected to see: a divided planet of squabbling primitives." In the Imperial Palace, Emperor Sunwoo received the news with growing horror. The live feed from Earth showed his mighty fleet rendered completely powerless. His advisors stood in shocked silence as General Minseo's voice filled the throne room. "The Imperium's policy of conquest ends today," the human said firmly. "We have transmitted the specifications of our quantum disruptor technology to every world under your control. Your subjugated planets now have the means to liberate themselves." The Emperor's face paled. "This is impossible." Reports were already coming in. Rebellions had broken out on 17 worlds simultaneously. Imperial garrisons found their technology failing, their weapons useless, their ships grounded. Back on Earth, the United Defense Council gathered in their secure chamber, watching as human diplomatic vessels prepared to depart for neighboring star systems. These ships, hidden in underground bases on Earth's moon and Mars, revealed that humans had achieved faster-than-light travel years ago. "The first diplomatic teams are ready," reported Foreign Director Junho. "They're offering alliance and protection to any world that wishes to break free from Imperial control." General Minseo nodded. "And the Imperial officers?" "Being treated well," Junho assured him. "Admiral Jiwoo has requested a meeting." In a simple conference room aboard the space station Freedom, Admiral Jiwoo sat across from Dr. Suman. The Imperial officer's proud posture remained, but her eyes showed her new understanding. "You could have destroyed us," Jiwoo said quietly. Suman shook her head. "That was never our goal. We don't seek conquest or destruction." "Then what do you want?" "Peace. Cooperation. A galaxy where worlds aren't subjugated by force." Jiwoo studied the human scientist carefully. "The Emperor won't accept this. The Imperium has ruled for 1,000 years. We don't know any other way." "Then it's time to learn," replied Suman with a gentle smile. "We're offering the Imperium a place in a new galactic community, as equals, not rulers." Across the stars, the news spread rapidly. The mighty Imperium, brought to its knees not by superior firepower but by patience, innovation, and the strategy of appearing weaker than you are. Dozens of worlds declared independence. Imperial governors found themselves with a choice: adapt to a new reality or face obsolescence. In the observation dome of the Eternal Dominion, Admiral Jiwoo watched Earth rotate slowly beneath her. The blue planet that looked so simple, so vulnerable from space, had changed the galaxy forever. "You never saw us coming, did you?" asked General Minseo, who had joined her. "No," admitted Jiwoo. "In all our calculations, we never considered that. A species might hide its true capabilities. Humans learned long ago that sometimes appearing weak is the greatest strength," Minseo explained. "When others underestimate you, they expose themselves." As Earth's diplomatic ships departed for distant stars carrying offers of alliance and protection, a new era began. The age of Imperial conquest was ending, replaced by something unprecedented: a galactic community based on mutual respect and cooperation. The trap had sprung perfectly. Not just to defeat an invader, but to transform the very nature of interstellar relations. The mighty Imperial fleet, sent to crush Earth, had instead become the harbinger of liberation across the stars.